Welcome to Passage to Profit, everybody. I'm Richard Gearhart, an intellectual property attorney specializing in patents, trademarks, and copyrights.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart, not an attorney, but I work at Gearhart Law and I do the marketing and I have my own startup.
So welcome again to Passage to Profit, the road to entrepreneurship. And today we have a really fascinating guest, Michelle Seiler-Tucker, and she's the founder of Seiler-Tucker, Inc. and Exit Rich. So we're looking forward to hearing from her because who doesn't want to exit rich?
And then we have two presenters. Our first presenter, Andrew Codispoti, has Goodlife clothing, really awesome clothes. I mean, they sell in Nordstrom, so need I say more? And he'll be talking about those. And then Conrad Oberbeck with Hangobi. So who doesn't need more hydration in their lives? He's got some excellent products for that.
I'm feeling especially unhydrated right now. So.
Especially since it's summer. It's hot.
So. It's hot in the studio. Yes.
Yeah. So
you made
tuned.
that point. Yes, absolutely. But before we get to our distinguished guests, it's time for IP in the news. And who are we putting on the rack today?
Well, this is very interesting. It's a trademark infringement case.
Ah, my favorite.
Yeah. And Amazon has an algorithm that looks for copycats and trademark infringement and takes people off if they can find out. And this Chinese company managed to design around that.
You mean they don't have like 1,000 people in the background there just checking everything? They use.
Well, I don't know, maybe they do, but I kind of doubt it.
All right.
No, Jeff Bezos looks at every single one himself, right? No, so Cartier got ripped off by this company and they used their logo on their jewelry products and were selling them as Cartier on Amazon. And Amazon couldn't catch it with their algorithm. They got really mad. So Amazon and Cartier teamed up to sue this Chinese company for patent infringement, among other things.
Right. And so
or not patent, trademark infringement, among other things.
Right.
Excuse me.
We need to be legally correct here. Yeah, what's really interesting about the case, though, is that Amazon usually doesn't get involved in disputes. Usually they just leave it to the brand holder to pursue the copycatters or alleged infringers on their own. Right. But Amazon, because their algorithm doesn't work, I guess they feel like they have to join in this case against the counterfeiters. And what's kind of interesting, especially if you're an attorney, a legal geek like me, is that most courts have held that the companies like Amazon or eBay are not liable for infringement. And so you can't sue Amazon because somebody is selling an infringing product on Amazon. They're not a party to the case. But if Amazon gets involved in this, I wonder if that rule will change with the courts and maybe they would become, a party in an infringement suit.
Well, I know Amazon is pretty diligent about people's trademarks, so I hope they don't get.
Right. And I mean, Amazon is very open about their policy. They really at least publicly say they want to keep the infringers off. So yeah, we'll see what happens. It's an interesting case and just another piece of doing business with Amazon.
Well, and I think the important thing is it's a Chinese company, but it's because they're doing business in the US, right?
Right. So if you wanted to go after somebody in China, you'd have to have a trademark in China. Right. So it's only your trademark only protects you for what's happening in the United States and not overseas, unless you have an overseas trademark.
And I have to credit the author of this article was Abraham Jewett. And I can't remember I didn't put down what site I found it on. So thank you, Abraham.
And it's time for Richard's Roundtable. So we're going to go to our distinguished collection of guests and we're going to ask them for their opinions and thoughts. So first up is Michelle Seiler-Tucker. Welcome to the show, Michelle. What do you think about all this crazy Chinese infringing stuff?
Well, I think it's time that something dramatic is done because this has been happening for decades. And I think it's good that Amazon's getting involved. And I think there should be a law established that these platforms can't sell counterfeits. You know, like I said, this has been going on for decades. So I think it's a good stance. I think it's good that Amazon's involved, and I think it's good.
Yeah, I mean, the earlier cases that said that they weren't responsible were when these businesses were first starting out. but they're really facilitating copycats.
Well,
And that hurts American businesses and, you know, or I should say at least legitimate businesses, right?
yeah, and it's not just, of course, it's not just Amazon. I mean, I get pop-up Facebook ads all the time with counterfeit products that are being sold on a variety of different avenues, a variety of different companies that are all counterfeit products, and they're everywhere. They're on Instagram, they're on Facebook, Amazon. So I do think that there should be a new law established, because let me tell you, you know, proprietary is everything when you're selling a business. It is a number one value driver. So we really got to establish those laws, especially in the United States, to protect everyone's proprietary assets, because that is your business. I mean, really, without proprietary, your business is not worth that much. It is a number one value driver. Proprietary can take you from a 3 multiple to 5 to an 8 to a 10.
Right.
Right.
I couldn't you know, agree more. And it'd be interesting to expand on that point a little bit later in the show. So Andrew, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's interesting how this comes to the foreground when it's this ultra luxury, you know, I guess Cartier. Does Cartier owned by LVMH, or, you know, whoever it is that's really compelling Amazon to actually start to sort of adjudicate this.
Right.
You know, I think counterfeits on Amazon seems to me like it's been a rampant problem for quite some time, that that's kind of been buried. People shop at Target and Walmart. They expect that the products they buy and the labels on those products are in fact manufactured by those companies. And for some reason, Amazon just hasn't been held to this test. I mean, I've purchased things that were clearly counterfeits from Amazon in the past. I remember buying Philips Sonicare toothbrush heads, which like random products that, you know, you couldn't count on. They didn't quite work right. And so they know about this. This has been allowed. They can stand behind that. You know, they're simply a platform, and I'm sure in the legal jargon, when you sign up for your Prime account or what have you, you know, I'm sure somehow they're legally covered. But unless governments really step in and compel them to do whatever they can to prevent these bad actors, they're going to continue to you know, do whatever they need to do to be profitable.
Right. And they've become so sophisticated that even, you know, Amazon's sophisticated algorithms can't detect them. And that's why Amazon is having to get involved in that. And it does rob legitimate businesses of their brand or their proprietary, you know, their proprietary stuff. So,
Well, and if you do get confused and you get, like you said, a toothbrush head that doesn't work and you think it came from Sonicare, then that really hurts their brand, right?
And I'd like to know how much Amazon knows and doesn't know. Yes, there's quite a bit of sophistication, especially coming out of China when it comes to counterfeits and technology. Frankly, probably a lot of it's even state sponsored. But, you know, Amazon also, I'm sure, has turned a blind eye quite a few times to keep the commerce flowing. And so, you know, the consumer doesn't necessarily understand that buying something on Amazon and being a Prime member and getting all their shopping needs done is not the same as making a purchase, say, at a Walmart or a Target.
yeah, I mean, this is a really good point. I'm glad we're having this discussion because I guess for a long time, you really did get the sense that we were tolerating this, and we were letting Amazon off the hook and letting, you know, consumers kind of decide what they really wanted, whether they wanted the brand or the off brand or whatever. But when it implicates legally registered copyrights and trademarks and patents, people who have taken the steps to protect their brand and their ideas, I do think that Amazon should be held accountable for that, because Amazon's just making money from
it looks like
the
they're
counterfeits.
it looks like they're stepping it up, though. I mean, and they are doing no trademarks. So thank you. We should probably move on to Conrad. Right?
Yeah, why don't we move on to Conrad?
Yeah, thanks everybody. This really great points across the board. I think Amazon, I think kind of going back a little bit, was the pioneer to bring kind of that larger department store online. And kind of with the moves that the department stores have made, Amazon almost had carte blanche to just take on every product and not really worry about, as we've been discussing, the quality of the brand, and almost giving the consumer the option to buy a Chanel brand if it, wasn't the quality. But I think what's great, and particularly in America, is the competition hopefully is what is going to hold them accountable at the end of the day. And while we'd like to hope that leaders will recognize kind of their end consumer having a poor experience, I think, Walmart coming out with their own, platform, as well as Target and a couple other providers, and then having retail kind of, I think there's a second resurgence in retail and in department stores. Consumers having the options to now, Amazon's 2-day delivery is very convenient, but if they have a couple poor experiences, I think they will look at these other platforms, Walmart and Target also having formidable funding behind them and offering a very powerful platform. So ideally, that's going to drive Amazon to make some changes. And Hangobi, as a young brand, we're just recently selling on Amazon, and they do have kind of a trademark registry that they put you through, and they take some time to review your brand, ensure you're authentic. I'm not sure how that works. If they probably didn't say they were Chanel when they registered their product, but some steps on the IP side of things. And then I know that they're taking reviews very seriously. So when it comes to people that purchase the product and review it, they're, I'm not sure the depth of their algorithms. And ideally, I think they're pouring a lot of funding in this category, but tracking almost like bot-like reviews or anything that isn't a genuine customer. And so if any of us bought that Chanel brand and noticed that it was not what it was supposed to be, you get an authentic review, you get a 1-star. And I think that hopefully is another driving item to keep these brands accountable. So I think that's kind of, the competition side of things, as well as their authentication from the consumer side, is probably the best way to catch a lot of this, improper branding and kind of lesser international product. I think, Richard and Elizabeth, I'd be curious to hear your perspective on, what practical steps can be taken, both from a legal sense. Are they, do they just come back with a different product, right? If they get blocked with this one, what can be taken from a legal sense? And then, to what extent should Amazon be kind of banning per se, or putting some businesses on probation? Wondering just kind of what the combination is on the corporate and the legal side of things.
Well, I mean, as attorneys, we can do all sorts of things, but lots of times the value of the object, the number of infringements, the difficulty of finding infringers overseas, it really makes it expensive for retailers who are operating on small margins. It makes it expensive to get legal professionals involved. And so Amazon does have dispute resolution procedures, both for trademarks and for intellectual property. There's an infringement practice that is really relatively inexpensive compared to going through a court proceeding for, say, a patent dispute. But at the end of the day, I do think that the best overall solution would be for Amazon to start assuming some responsibility for making sure that their retailer, the people who are selling on their website, are legitimate businesses. And but I mean, there are lots of Amazon has tried to be a good player. They've tried to make sure that intellectual property rights are protected. As I mentioned, we can send cease and desist letters, lawsuits. We can help clients with some of these internal procedures that Amazon has. Some resolutions have been quicker than others, but it's a difficult problem, and I think it would be better if Amazon took some responsibility for this. So hopefully, like you said, with the competition would drive them to that.
Right. So Kenya, been waiting for you to weigh in.
Yeah, no, I kind of share similar thoughts with everyone who shared so far. I'm just curious, if I'm a brick and mortar, right, I would be held accountable by Cartier if I was selling some sort of like knockoff version of what their product is. So I wonder if Amazon is getting involved because Cartier is, applying pressure internally, like in terms of like, maybe it's some sort of breach of contract, because I don't know, I don't sell anything on Amazon. So I don't know what the terms are in terms of like what I'm guaranteed as a vendor there. So is there some sort of like guarantee that, you know, Amazon is to have a better vetting process when it comes to trademarks, and like what is guaranteed to me as a vendor? So I wonder if that's been breached, which is why they're kind of getting overly involved in this. And, you know, as a vendor, like, can I hold Amazon accountable and, you know, really kind of hold them to the fire legally in this case?
Well, I think one of the big things with this too is that they actually had the actual Cartier trademark stamped into the products that they were selling. So like if you go buy a handbag on the corner in New York, it looks like a Coach handbag, but it's not like the actual Coach logo on there. So I think just the brazenness and how far they took it was part of the problem too. And also that they evaded Amazon's counterfeit detection tools. I think that was a big one.
Well, you think about eBay and you think about like the Poshmarks of the world, like they would not, this like wouldn't be tolerated at all. So I'm just curious is like, why is there's this level of standard with other platforms where you sell things and not with Amazon?
Well, it was a business choice.
Good question.
I mean, it was a business decision. I think they felt like they could manage the problem and they wanted the extra revenue from the knockoffs. I mean, I can't say that for sure if anybody from Amazon is listening.
Allegedly.
But you know, I'm just speculating. I don't really have, but I mean, it's been around for a long time, and I know Amazon has tried to deal with it, but it continues, right? And
So-
they grew at such a rapid rate. You know, maybe there wasn't a good way to do that.
Right. We've talked about trademark infringement a few times on this show, and it really is, the trademark system is a powerful tool for stopping other people from destroying your brand. And I think that this just goes to show, like, you can use the trademark system and then it gets publicized and then people find out about it. Right. So,
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well,
So-
anyway, very interesting discussion. I guess the takeaway from this is get all the IP that you can, because you never know when you're going to have to do battle with the counterfeiter or Amazon, and maybe this case will signify some sort of turn for Amazon, and maybe they will start taking some responsibility. Who knows? But
right. So now it's time for Michelle. I'm excited to talk to her because I have a startup, as you know, that I do want to sell someday. So
that's right. And you also want to exit rich, don't
and
you?
I do want to exit rich. So I really want to pick her brain.
All right. Well, let's get started then. Welcome to the show, Michelle. And it's really a pleasure to have you here, because you're a merger and acquisition expert, right? And so I don't think we've had a merger and acquisition expert before on the show. And it does seem to me like it's a very, kind of stratospheric type of thing. I think when ordinary people hear of mergers and acquisitions, they think of big companies and big deals. And is that the case? I mean, how does this relate to, for example, an entrepreneur?
Sure. So I've been in this business a little over 22 years, sold hundreds upon hundreds and hundreds of businesses. I started out selling your pizzerias, your coffee shops, your flower stores, and then graduate per se and selling multi-million-dollar businesses. Now our focus is $10 million and up. So there's business brokers and there's M&A advisors. Business brokers sell the small businesses, like I said, the pizzerias, coffee shops, things of that nature. Mergers and acquisitions experts really focus on the larger type businesses, manufacturing, distribution, healthcare, SaaS businesses, e-commerce, etc. There's a lot more that goes in to mergers and acquisitions, selling companies, merging companies. We really specialize in buying, selling, fixing, growing companies, not just selling. We also specialize in partnering with business owners, investing my money, resources, core competencies to really put them on what we call the Exit Rich program, so we can build their businesses out for their desired price tag. But there's so many more moving parts when you're selling a $50 million business versus a $500,000 company.
So since our audience are mostly entrepreneurs, what lessons what things have you learned that would apply to, smaller businesses, entrepreneurial businesses, if somebody was thinking about a merger or preparing their business to be sold?
Sure. So the principles are really the same. Whether you have a small restaurant versus a multi-million-dollar corporation. The principles are really the same. I mean, obviously, what got you there won't get you here. What got you here won't get you there. But in my book, Exit Rich, it just came out, and the audio version was just released in May, endorsed by Steve Forbes. Steve Forbes says 80% of the businesses, and that's all businesses, small and big, 80% will not sell. So that means you have less than a 20% chance of success. That's a pretty scary statistic for business owners that are trying to sell their business and exit rich. 80% of businesses are exiting poor. They're selling for pennies on the dollar, closing their business, or even worse, following bankruptcy. Why is that? So the biggest reason for that, Richard and Elizabeth, is because business owners don't think about selling their business. They go into business, to create financial freedom, to have a better quality of life. But guess what? Most business owners have created themselves a glorified job that they go to work at every day versus a business that actually works for them. And they don't think about selling until a catastrophic event occurs, whether that's internal or external. Internal is health issues, partner disputes, divorce, death, unfortunately. I just had a lady call me from Dallas. Husband dropped dead of a heart attack at the age of 40. Left her with a mountain of debt, wants me to sell his business. Guess what he has? He has a construction business with no employees, subcontractors only, none of the 6 Ps in place, which is processes, is my 3rd P. And when he died, the business died. So business owners really have to start thinking and planning their exit from day one of starting or buying their business. And most business owners never plan for the exit till they wake up one day and say, boom, I got to sell my business. And Michelle, by the way, I think my business is worth $20 million. And then which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization, is maybe $100,000.
Okay.
Because business owners don't base the value on what the business is actually worth. They base it on what they need to retire on. Or these two gentlemen, Conrad, Andrew, Kenya, all look young on what they need to spend for their next investment or their next masterpiece that they want to go out and create. So buyers don't care about what you need. They care about what the value of your business is. So there's always this huge evaluation gap. So the number one thing, Richard and Elizabeth, that business owners need to do is follow the GPS exit model that we talk about in my book, Exit Rich. And
that sounds great. And so we're going to have to stop for a minute and take a commercial break, but we want to hear about this exit model right after this commercial.
Welcome back, listeners. Passage to Profit, Road to Entrepreneurship with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. Our special guest, Michelle Seiler-Tucker, Exit Rich. She is teaching us how to prepare our companies to sell for a lot of money when we're ready to sell them. So she has a book called Exit Rich. And I have a question for Michelle. So I have a startup. I started this with the idea that I was going to sell it, and I'm trying to do everything right. It's still early stages. But what are some of the things I need to do at the very beginning so that I can sell this for a lot of money in a few years?
So it's a good question, because again, nobody goes into business planning their exit, which everybody should. And that will prevent the 80% of businesses that don't sell. So we left off with the GPS exit. Let's start there. So when you go into business, start a business, buy a business, everyone should start with the end in mind. Like Stephen Covey says, start with the end in mind. So you want to go into business and figure out what is your desired sales price. Think about your GPS. When you want to drive somewhere, Elizabeth, what do? You pull out your phone, you go to Google Maps, and what do you plug in?
The address you want to go to.
The destination.
The end point, yeah.
If you don't plug in the destination, where do you end up at?
Probably just sitting in your driveway wondering why you're not going anywhere.
And you're right in the driveway, you're going to end up lost, you're going to drive around. This is what happens to business owners. They don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. Business owners end up driving up and down the financial hills, around circles, ending up exiting poor, not rich. So number one, you want to figure out what's your destination. When I partner with business owners, I work with my business owners and I say, listen, we're going to build this business to sell for 15, 20, 30, whatever our destination is. I will not partner with a company unless we agree on that destination. So you need to pick a number. Let's say you want to sell for $10 million. What's the next step in the GPS exit model? What does the GPS need to know next? Where you're starting.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Where you're starting from. What is your current location? Have you ever been downtown New York City? and you're trying to get somewhere and it doesn't have a pinpoint to pick up your address. Well, in business, it needs to know, where are you starting from? What is your current evaluation? What is your business worth today? One of the biggest mistakes that business owners make is they never get a business evaluation. We're working with a company that's been in business 60 years. Not one valuation in 60 years. You need to have a valuation checkup, like you have a physical checkup, to make sure your heart's still ticking and you're still kicking. You need to make sure that you have that annual valuation checkup. You must get this done by an M&A expert, not by a CPA. I love my CPAs. My co-author of Exit Rich is a CPA, but only M&A experts know how to identify, evaluate those proprietary assets. So you need an annual valuation checkup. Why do you need it annually? Because there are events that increase valuation. There are events that decrease valuation. This pandemic is a perfect example of that. So you need a valuation checkup. Let's say you want to sell for 10 million, you're worth $1 million. The next step is time frame. When do you want to sell for 10 million? Let's say you want to do this in 5 years. So 10 million, you're worth $1 million, 5 years. It's a step-by-step blueprint. The next equation, who are your buyers going to be, Elizabeth? There are 5 types of buyers, and most owners don't know that. 95% of all buyers are first-time buyers. Most sellers will come to me and say, hey, Michelle, I have the buyer. I just need you to represent me with this one buyer. My answer is always no. And a reason for that is because that one buy, the likelihood of that one buyer buying your business is slim to none. And how can I maximize value on the sale of your company and create a bidding war with a party of one?
Right.
We want multiple buyers. That's how you get the highest price on your business. First-time buyers are 95%. They don't buy $10 million companies. They buy small businesses under $1 million. Then you have turnaround specialists that buy distressed assets. Private equity groups buy based on platforms and add-ons. If they're trying to get into food manufacturing, they won't even consider your business unless you have at least $3 to $7 million in EBITDA, which I'm going to say it, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. If they already have a platform in food manufacturing, then they will consider your food manufacturing business if it's under $1 million in EBITDA. The fourth type of buyer are strategic/competitors. They are typically the best buyer because they will pay the highest multiple because they're buying synergies. It's not just about the cash flow. It's not just about the EBITDA. It's also about all of those proprietary assets, those proprietary synergies that we'll talk about in a few minutes. Then the last type of buyer is sophisticated entrepreneurs. These are storm chasers. They're industry agnostic. They chase cash flow. Once you figure it out, the last 3 buyers will probably be my buyer. Then you have to look at your numbers and say, well, if I want to sell for 10 million, where's my gross revenues, my operating expenses, COGS, EBITDA need to land? Well, EBITDA needs to be around 1.5 to 2 million if you're trying to sell for 10 million, okay? Depending again upon your proprietary assets. Then you need to ask yourself, what are these synergies? What's the criteria that these buyers are willing to pay top dollar for?
That's really great advice.
Yeah. So the EBITDA is sort of like your
Gross revenues almost.
No, it's more your profit, sort of. It's
It
earnings
isn't.
before interest and taxes, right?
It's earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation. Because if you're a manufacturing plant, we're selling a $55 million company right now that's got about $5 million in depreciation every year. So for smaller businesses, they're not going to have as much depreciation. But it is your earnings before the interest that you pay, before the taxes that you pay, before the depreciation, because what are we trying to get to? And it's actually not just EBITDA, it's adjusted EBITDA, because we're going to normalize the financials and we're going to add back personal expenses, non-recurring expenses, things of that nature. So it's really strip everything out. What does the business make?
So once you get to the EBITDA, which is, there's different ways to look at profit, and that's certainly the standard way to do it. But once you kind of figure out in layman's terms what the profit is, then Your assumption is there that you can get between 3 and 5 times that and if you sell your business. Is that's a rough estimation?
Yes and no. So let me give you a quick crash course. So quick crash course. If you're a small business, under a couple $1 million, they're really looking at net income versus looking at EBITDA. It's typically businesses, 3, 4, 5, 10 million and up where we're looking at EBITDA. And so usually anything under $1 million in EBITDA will typically trade for anywhere between 1.5 to 3, maybe 3.5, not 5, depending upon those synergies, depending upon the energy, depending upon the proprietary assets. When I talk about proprietary assets, I'm talking about trademarks, patents, branding, name recognition, contracts. I'm talking about databases, celebrity endorsements, all kinds of things to build proprietary synergies. And so if the business is over $1 million in EBITDA, this is the sweet spot. Elizabeth, this is where we're going to get your business to.
Okay, yeah. I want it there and even higher. So my question,
when we get, let me finish my thought real quick. When we get over $1 million in EBITDA, that's when it starts going 4, 4.5, 5 and up.
right. And I want to, so I have some ideas for it, but they're kind of proprietary right now. Speaking of proprietary, and I did actually file a provisional patent application on various aspects of my business.
Who did that?
And a trademark. I drafted the application myself. What are you talking about?
Of course.
And Gearhart Law did the trademark for me. So I do have intellectual property, which I think after going to some investor presentations, intellectual property does factor in for a number of different people.
Well, it is the highest value driver. It is the highest value driver. It could take you from a 5 to 7 to 8. We're still an app company right now, and we're getting a really high multiple. It's been on the market for a month. We got another company we're selling. It's got, 2,000 clients, has trademarks, patents, and everything else. We're probably going to get them a 10 to 11 multiple. So I can't stress this enough. Your proprietary assets, which is one of our 6 Bs, is the number 1 value driver. Also, I wanted to clarify one thing. This is industry standards. We look at markets comps. There's 6 different valuation methods that we look at. I'm just giving you a crash course. If you're a SaaS company, you're not going to trade at a multiple of EBITDA. You're going to trade at a multiple of revenues.
Okay, so SaaS is software as a service.
Correct.
So what's an example of a SaaS company for people who wouldn't know?
Well, right now we're selling, there's lots of SaaS companies. Gosh, who has the best example of a SaaS company? I'm trying to think, There's lots of SaaS companies that are software specific. That's what they are. It's just all software driven, and they're always a multiple of revenue, never a multiple of EBITDA. The app company that we're selling is somewhat of a SaaS company. We're also selling a real estate coaching SaaS company as well. That's got a huge software platform, and almost everything they do has a software component. I always encourage all of my business owners to try to build some type of proprietary SaaS component into your company, because that's huge. That will sell for a lot more money if you have that SaaS component as part of your company, and it will give you a much higher multiple.
And it'll help you.
Amazon has a SaaS component. I mean, a lot of businesses, big businesses have SaaS components. Apple.
And it'll help you grow your company, right? If you have that SaaS. I mean, one of the things that it says here is that you grow, and
if you have that SaaS, it'll help you grow your company.
if you're sassy, you focus on buying, selling, fixing, and growing businesses. So. Yeah. That's a piece of the growth. What else do you tell entrepreneurs to do to grow their businesses, to get to the point where they can sell it?
So back to that GPS exit, just to finish that one last step, is once you figure out where your numbers need to be, you need to really figure out what's the synergies that you need to create. And those synergies are going to be based in the infrastructure. So what happens is startups go and they start a business or buy a business, and they're so excited about the business, but they're not really building that solid foundation. It's kind of like when you go to build a house. If you don't get the right contractor in place, if they don't dig deep, lay all the piping, lay all the foundation, lay everything, you're going to have one strong wind come by and blow your house away. Same thing with the business. You need the infrastructure, and most businesses don't have the infrastructure. That's why they're not sustainable. That's why they won't scale, and that's why they won't sell. So let's just go over the 6 Ps really quickly, and that will answer your question. The number one reason, and the biggest mistake that business owners make, is that businesses are not sellable because you are the business. All of you right now, look at your business and ask yourself, can you take off for a week? Can you take off for a month? Can you take off for 6 months? What will happen to your business if you do? And most businesses are not sellable for 100% because the business is 1,000% dependent upon that owner. Let me give you an example. I already gave you the example about the wife whose husband died. Here's another example. Dentist, been in practice for 50 years, 1 dentist. 3 dental hygienists. The 3 dental hygienists are his daughters.
Oh my gosh.
He asked me if I could sell the business. Of course, because we're that good. But we're not going to be able to maximize value because if he leaves, the daughters leave, there is no business. So I told him, you're going to have earn-out. Your deal is going to be structured with earn-outs, seller financing, clawbacks, all kinds of things. And they're going to require you and your daughters to stay on for 2 to 3 years. He said, well, honey, we're not staying. I said, well, honey, you're not selling them. And so you don't build businesses. Hear me out. You don't build a business. You build people, and people build a business. And the number one ingredient into building a sustainable, scalable, sellable business is people. That's the first beat. You got to focus on your strengths, hide your weaknesses. Most entrepreneurs are control freaks and they're like, well, if I want it done right, I've got to do it myself. I know a lot of attorneys this way. And so you will never grow unless you let go of the control. You have to have the right people in the right seats, and you have to ask the who question. Who handles legal? Who handles accounting? Who handles quality control, customer service? Who handles marketing? Who opens the door? Who handles distribution, manufacturing? The list goes on and on and on. The clue here, Richard and Elizabeth, and everyone on this panel, is you should not be the who. You
Right.
should work on your business, not in it. Most business owners are working in your business. We're selling a $55 million company right now. 2 partners, related. They both work in the business. Nobody's working on the business. Big problem. We're selling 80% of the business because the business will never run without them. And they have 350 employees. And they're still working in the business. So we really have to make this huge mind shift and work on it, not in it. Make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
Well,
Richard's been trying to get to that point with Gearhart for a long time.
And guess what?
And-
You got to start somewhere, Elizabeth, and you might not be able to go out and forward people, right? But guess what you can do? I'm between 5 colleges. We have over 300 applications for interns. We're on a wait list right now for summer and fall. We already filled up our summer positions, but for fall interns, you can get interns. You can hire 1099s. You can go to E5 or you can go to ELANS. There's so many things you can do to get
Right.
people in your organization. But when I grow businesses, fix businesses, we start with the people. Then the next thing we do is we look at your product. That's the second P. Is your product, your industry on the way up or on the way out? You know, Andrew's in clothing. Clothing's always going to be around, right? We
Right.
have to be clothed. Except if you're in New Orleans, they just had the naked bike race. So New Orleans, they don't
Part
play
of the
clothes.
business.
But everywhere else,
But
we
you
got
can't
to
stay
go.
naked all the time,
So, and
as
then
much as some of
Conrad,
us would like.
And there's some people.
yeah, and then Conrad's in the hydrating business. We got to be hydrated. If we're not hydrated, we die. Especially during this heat right now. So you got to look at your industry and ask yourself, do you have an Amazon and you're in your prime? Because that's when you sell. You sell when you're in your prime. Or do you have a blockbuster and you're about to go out of business? Very, very, very important is your product. And so many industries took a nosedive during this pandemic, especially the hospitality industry. Here's why else they died. Because they had one way they get paid. They had one profit center. You need multiple congruent revenue streams.
Mhm.
So just to interrupt here, we're running over on your segment. So if you can just get through the last P's fairly quickly, then.
Fairly quickly, yep. Processes are those systems, you know, those processes. You can have all the people in place in the right seats, but if you don't have the processes to drive the people, you will never become sustainable. You must drive Start your processes with the customer experience in mind. Then I'm going to move on to proprietary. And this is where I'm going to spend the most time. I'll tell you the last two, but I'm going to tell you proprietary really quickly. Proprietary, there's 6 pillars. Number 1 is trademarks. We already talked about it at the beginning of the show when we talked about Cartier and Amazon. Trademarks are the most important thing that you can do because branding is everything. The more well branded you are, the more I can sell your company for, as long as your brand is relevant. The most valuable brand in the world is Apple at $289 billion. You need to build your brand. But if you don't protect your trademarks and you just go to GoDaddy and get a .com and you don't get a federal trademark or global trademark, you're going to receive, you could very easily, because I've had it happen to client after client after client, where they receive a cease and desist letter and they have to stop using that company name and they have to start all over again. There could be a fight. Yes, you can make a claim, but guess what? You're going to hire an attorney. It's going to cost you a lot of money. Go out there and get those federal trademarks. Hire Richard. Protect your proprietary assets. Patents are huge. If you look at Shark Tank, they always ask the same question. Do you have a patent pending on this? Do you have a patent? Also get trademarks on products. We have a client right now that's got 6 different products. One is exclusive to TJ Maxx, one Marshall, and each product has an exclusive trademark, federal trademark. Then you also want to look at contracts. But guess what? 98% of all sales are asset sales, not stock sales. Nope, most business owners don't have the transferability clause in their contracts. So if it's an asset sale and it's not transferable, guess what? You have to go back to all your clients, all your customers, all those retail stores you have, Andrew, and you're going to have to ask them to sign a consent to transfer. Then you just let the cat out of the bag and told your customers you're selling your business. And if the deal doesn't come to fruition, you could be in big trouble. Also databases. Facebook paid $19 billion for WhatsApp. WhatsApp was hemorrhaging money, but they had 1 billion users. Celebrity endorsements, content. Hold your proprietary assets in a separate corporation. I'm telling you right now, proprietary assets. I sold a business that had a contract with BP, and the buyer wanted that because they had similar products and couldn't get in the door for BP. They paid 65% more, 165% more than what the company appraised for. So this is your number 1 value driver. If you don't do anything else, do this. And then patrons, most businesses follow 80-20 rule, where 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your clients. You lose a couple of clients, you're in big trouble. You almost have a business. The last one is profits. Lack of profits is not your problem. Lack of profits is not your problem. It is a symptom of not having the right people in place, not having the right processes, being in the dying industry, not a thriving industry, not protecting your proprietary assets. If you're operating on all 5 cylinders, you can't help to be profitable.
That's great.
Wow. I agree 100%.
Well, thank you very much. This has really been very educational for me. I've learned a tremendous amount, and I really appreciate getting the value and of your experience. So it's Michelle Seiler-Tucker, and she's the founder of Seiler-Tucker Inc. and the author of Exit Rich. And I hope you'll stay with us for the rest of the program. Michelle, we've got a lot more Passage to Profit coming up, and we'll be right back after this. Welcome back, everybody. Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. We just heard an amazing discussion from Michelle Seiler-Tucker, author of Exit Rich. And if you missed it, you can hear it on our podcast tomorrow, and you can find it on the Passage to Profit Show podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. So I'd love now to go to our next segment, Power Move. Kenya, who is Power Move today?
Yeah, so Power Move today, we're going to talk about Naomi Osaka. She's launching a media company in partnership with LeBron James and Maverick Carter's Spring Hill company. And shortly after she launched Evolve, which is her own sports agency, she's launching Hanakuma. And Hanakuma is going to be a media platform that focuses on culturally relevant stories. So she's just going back to her Japanese roots, and her goal there is to produce stories that are culturally specific but universal to all audiences, playful and bold in its approach to tackle important issues of society. And I just kind of wanted to end with her quote and her goal here. She just basically was saying there has been an explosion of creators of color finally being equipped with resources and a huge platform, according to a press release from Afrotech. And in the streaming age, content has been a more global perspective. You can see this in the popularity of television from Asia, Europe, and Latin America, that the unique can also be universal. So her story is a testament to that as well. And she's so excited that she is building Hanakuma. So power move goes to her today.
Wow.
That's awesome. You know, Netflix is putting on a lot more movies from other countries with subtitles. I don't know if you guys watched those or noticed it, but we saw one from Ukraine the other night. Remember?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I don't remember the movie, but I remember it was from Ukraine. It had a Ukraine journalist in it.
It was really interesting because you see what the other countries look like. And I mean, I find that fascinating, looking at other cultures and countries, but it's always the same stuff everybody's dealing with, no matter where in the world they are.
Well,
right?
there are common themes to those stories, that's for sure. So thank you, Kenya. What's up for Fireside?
Well, so we've been talking about guarding your proprietary information and your intellectual property. So last September, I drafted a provisional patent application for Fireside for some components of it and the overall idea. And since it's provisional, there's a way that you can make the claim, which is what the patent office looks at, broad enough so that it could still be good if you make changes further down the line. So since it's provisional, I can make changes to the application. And of course, since I've been working on this, I've gotten a number of changes that I'm going to have to put in before we file the utility application. So the provisional application is a placeholder. It holds the date you filed, and you get a year to work on it. And then you file the utility application after a year. And that's the one the patent office examines and looks at. So you can make changes up to that year. So I have to rewrite a lot of things in this application. Then I have to hand it over to a patent attorney at Gearhart Law, who really is a lot better at writing these things than I am, and have them really make it perfect to give to the patent office in September. So that's kind of where I'm at now with Fireside, and I'm working on my website too.
But you do have a lot of experience drafting patent applications because you're a patent agent. So it is, you still were able to incorporate your skills as a professional when you were drafting the application.
It's a software. It's, so for those of you who don't know, Fireside is a video directory online, and I'm doing it a different way than other directories are done. And so there's nothing exactly like that exists right now. And so I've been working on it, but it's a tech project. I don't really know how to do tech applications per se. So I have to hand it to somebody who's really good at tech applications.
Okay, great. So that was, thank you for that.
Yeah,
we're on to our first presenter.
Who I get to introduce.
Who you get to introduce.
So it is my pleasure to introduce Andrew Codispoti with Goodlife Clothing. He's selling it at Nordstrom's. I bought Richard a t-shirt from Nordstrom, and it's pretty cool stuff. So tell us all about it.
Well, as you can see, there's a secret sauce there. It sounds like a simple product, but it's not. So Goodlife Clothing, we're a SaaS-like apparel company, and I say that because Michelle just educated us on the type of valuations that SaaS companies get. So I'm gonna try to justify that as we move along. But truthfully, we're a premium essentials business. We're essentials are the wardrobe staples that everybody owns, and while these products have been around for quite some time, from James Dean and Marlon Brando making the T-shirt famous. We saw the white space in the market where we could create a premium product, premium fabrics, premium fabrication, create extremely flattering silhouettes, where we could pull up a lot of consumers in the marketplace on kind of the lower end categories. Pull them up from a lot of the more commercial players that have sort of degraded their product. A lot of the more insipid DTC brands, and then we offer a much better price value relationship from all the sort of luxury players who are really abusing their customers. And so we straddle those places in the market, and we've created something that's addictive, and we're proud to say, and the data bears it. We have very a culty following. We have incredible retention rates and repeat rates, which are akin to more of a CPG type company, a successful CPG company that's consumer packaged goods. So while I joked and said we're a SaaS-like apparel company, we really are a kind of a CPG-like apparel company in the sense that almost 80% of what we sell is core year-round product that consumers keep coming back to purchase over and over again, and we slowly and judiciously grow that line. But unlike most fashion and apparel companies, we're not trying to be everybody to everyone. We're narrow and deep and singularly focused on producing a product in the categories that we produce in with a purpose.
So I have a question. I do have your product. I love it. It feels great. It looks great. And we'll probably end up, getting more, because I really do think that you do provide a quality product. As a novice clothes purchaser, unlike a professional like Elizabeth, when people talk about the quality of the fabric, what does that really mean? And is it just the number of washings? Is it how it feels? Is it how it holds its shape? Is there really a big difference? Because what are the differences, I guess, is the question I'm trying to ask.
Oh, I mean, there's tremendous differences, without getting into the kind of nuances of different quality of cotton and things like that. I mean, you, like anything else, you can certainly pay up or down for quality materials. So, we're using Supima cotton, or our blends are blended with, primarily just high-end natural fibers, and we're super cognizant of where we source our fabric. I mean, there is a lot that goes into it, but then it's also the fabrication. Not every factory is made the same. The way our product's cut and sewn, and our core product is cut and sewn here in the US and Los Angeles, is done in a way where, the fabric quality coupled with the fabrication process leads to a product that doesn't fade, doesn't shrink, doesn't lose shape, is extremely durable. You can wash over and over again. And, it's not like a lot of products out there that, frankly, even in the high-end categories and products that are priced higher than us, you put it in the wash 5 or 6 times and they start to pill, they start to get holes, the collars start to crumble, crumble up on you. So we've all kind of experienced these things, and it's sometimes it's a little difficult to convey and communicate to the consumers as you raise awareness. But once we get this product on people, they do keep coming back. And you mentioned we're sold at Nordstrom. Yeah, that's a big partner for us. We're sold at a number of premium retailers and resorts, and it's a great way to we've taken an omni-channel approach right from the beginning phase of our business. Believing that validation from premium retailers can also create fantastic awareness and bring your customer acquisition costs down, which for some reason was lost on a lot of the DTC businesses and DTC investors up until probably just the last couple of years.
So Andrew, I do have to ask you though, did you have very good margins at Nordstrom? Because from the notes I have, it looks like you really sold to Nordstrom to get the validation of your product. And then you use social media and other channels to really push it out to the public. So was that your business model? Am I reading that right?
Well, the main thing about the business model for us is we created a category that is core year-round product that is on replenishment with our retailers. So unlike fashion businesses where, they can talk about margins all day long, but when you have dilution and chargebacks, and you sort of, it becomes a little bit of a house of cards in the wholesale world.
Right.
We have a product that is replenished weekly, so we don't have dilution and chargebacks. In our highlighted margins are true margins that create the cash flow machine that's allowed us to grow and proliferate our own DTC business without really having to raise much outside capital at all. And I thought, I got a lot of education from Michelle's talk right at the top about exit rich. I thought it was interesting, talking about building a company for that exit to, put all these processes in place. I think in many ways we did that almost by accident because, there's a little bit of a difference of building a company the right way that can achieve that successful exit versus along the way succumbing to temptation of what capital providers want to see at a given time. There is this interesting juxtaposition because capital is not always smart. It gets smart over time. And, we're one of these businesses, one of the few that compete in our world where very little capital has been put into business because we grew it in a super efficient way. And we're incredibly cognizant of acquiring the right customers and the customers that keep coming back and returning for our product. So a lot of capital was chasing growth and growth at any cost. For instance, we talked about SaaS businesses versus manufacturing businesses that traded EBITDA multiples. Well, you had a lot of sort of more tech-oriented investors investing in apparel businesses online because they were DTC that grew at any cost. And, now where are they? At some point, the rubber never meets the road. They hit a wall and they're not profitable and they don't know how to get profitable.
Right. So can I just break in? I want to give Michelle time to ask a question or make a comment. Michelle?
Yeah, so one of my big questions is, and I don't know if you want to say this on air, but what percentage of your revenue is Nordstrom's?
It's at this point, it's not a huge percentage of our business. We are from a very nascent stage. We always want to be omni-channel. So we were reinvesting that cash flow in Nordstrom, and we do sell in Saks.com. We're going to be selling in Dillard's in Q3.
Because you got to be very careful with that, right? Because I have a cosmetic skincare manufacturing that went into Costco's, which is 95% of their revenue. And when the pandemic hit, Costco's like, oh, well, nobody's buying skincare anymore. Nobody's buying cosmetics anymore. And they were the first company to go. So you always want to, really, really know, what that percentage is and make sure you diversify as much as possible. Are you just wholesaling or are you retailing too?
No, so we retail as well. I mean, so we obviously are an online business, but we're really leaning in hard on our own brick and mortar right now as well. Yeah. So we're going to be opening. We're going to have about 9 stores come the end of September, and we're in talks now about with one of the largest retail landlords in the country to do a deal for a chunk more stores over the next 12 months.
Kenya, do you have a question?
Oh, you're muted.
I was listening to you on another podcast and you were saying, I think you said that your initial trademark was filed back in 1994 for the company. And I want you to talk a little bit more about the evolution of the company. And you're an ex-Wall Street guy. So how you went from Wall Street to the clothing business and how different is that?
Oh, it's quite different. Well, yeah, it's a little bit of an interesting path. So my business partner, he really grew up in the fashion business, and he trademarked it in 1999. So, he always had an idea. He came up with the name, decided to trademark it, and had some commercial fits and starts along the way while he was working in the industry. And before, he was really coming up in the business. He launched a large line for John Barbados when he was in his mid-20s. He was, running the men's business at Michael Kors in his early 30s. And so he kind of owned that name and had some commercial interest in it along the way before we officially launched it in a very organized way. Yes, I have a Wall Street background. I was a partner in an investment bank. I had a proprietary trading hedge fund, and I'd made at that time I was making some personal investments in more CPG-like companies. Him and I grew up together, so we have we've been extremely close friends since we were children. So the trust was there, and I always believed in betting in people. Number one, here's a type A, extremely high integrity person who had a great idea, and I funded the angel stage of the business. And so for the first few years, as the business was evolving, he was building his relationships at wholesale first. It was more of the traditional way an apparel company would go to market. In a world where at that time it was kind of the first innings of the DTC business, sort of doing the opposite, trying to disrupt the old world. Now we're kind of finding a happy medium in the middle. But along the way, I sort of matriculated into the business where it required more and more professionalism, putting those processes in place. It required, I kind of took on the de facto CFO role and heavily involved in digital and marketing and investor relations, et cetera.
Excellent. Richard's giving me the twirly finger, which means we need to wrap up this segment.
I have one more question, but okay.
Okay. Well, do we have time for another question?
We have
or-
time for one more question.
I
Okay.
just wanted to, I just want to ask you, number one, do you have an app? And number two, do you have a nonprofit component that's attached with your products, kind of like the shoe guy, you buy a pair of shoes, he gives away a pair of shoes. Do you have
Yeah,
those?
no, we don't necessarily, we don't have a nonprofit component per se. We are kind of, we like to do things very authentically. We've done a number of charitable projects like Feeding America and animal rescue, et cetera, but they've been one-off thus far. As we enter the world of sustainability much more, and we create more sustainable product, and we're trying to tell a story about textile waste in the world, and really kind of call BS on a lot of the brands out there that are pretending to do it because there's a table stakes involved. We're trying to tell the whole story authentically. And what was the other part of your question? I think
I would encourage you to get an app to really promote.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the future of apps, to be honest with you. I'm not sure how much people.
Oh my gosh, I'm selling those companies like crazy.
I don't know.
Like crazy,
we have thought about apps, and we have been approached. As we just started rolling out a subscription program, or loyalty programs really taken off. Perhaps there will be some benefit to programming an app and creating that app in the future.
Well, thank you. Those were great questions, Michelle. Thank you. So where can people find you? Let's say they don't have a Nordstrom 5 minutes away like I do. Where can they find you?
Goodlifeclothing.com, of course. And, we probably have a store coming near you soon enough, but also Saks.com. We'll be in Dillard's. We're in a number of high-end resorts across the country, and a lot of some more premium specialty retailers as well.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Andrew. So that was Andrew Codispoti with Goodlife Clothing. Now we're going on to our next presenter, Conrad Oberbeck with Hangobi. Helps you hydrate. So tell us all about it, Conrad.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the introduction. And Andrew, phenomenal job with that presentation. That was very impressive. And nice to have another kind of CPG oriented brand trying to bring in a lot of the dynamics that Michelle talked about, a lot of those fundamentals that make a business more attractive.
So when we say CPG, what do we mean?
Consumer packaged good, CPG.
Okay.
And so
All
it's a really large category. It goes from anything from, something that you could wear, snacks and beverage. It has a wide swath of application.
Great.
Okay. So
yeah,
tell us about your drinks.
Yes. So Hangobi is in the functional beverage category. And what we're trying to do is really disrupt what that category is today. And I think, as Andrew did, kind of trying to disrupt kind of the legacy providers, that's what we're trying to do with functional beverage. And then a quick education on what that actually means. It's basically a drink that has a nutritional benefit to it. So almost taking like a power bar, it's not going the opposite direction, which is you have water, then you have kind of your flavor options, but are typically bad for you. This is going to give you a good flavor experience and a benefit to your body. And so the traditional providers often have one kind of vanity ingredient, as we like to call it, something just to differentiate from the kind of the sodas and soft drinks of the world. We're kind of bringing a whole different approach and kind of looking at 6 different plant-based ingredients in one can with kind of a very healthy profile, 50 to 60 calories, low sugar, all organic, so all plant-based. And then really kind of trying to establish this concept of a beverage that you can rely on. And I think what people today are kind of making spontaneous decisions about, is it a Gatorade day? Is it Body Armor? What am I in the mood for? And I think one thing that we recognize missed, as an athlete, as someone that's working very hard and likes to socialize throughout that chaos, you don't really have a product almost like your daily multivitamin that you can take with a great experience. And so that's what we're trying to bring together in Hangobi, combine kind of that experience that you get from those delicious kind of enhanced waters, that soft drink category, keep it very healthy, but then combine that with what we think is the opaque world of daily supplements. And so bringing adaptogens, amino acids, antioxidants to people that don't really know what those benefits are. And our 6 kind of plant-based categories wrapped it into one can, all at a meaningful daily value. So something that you'll feel pretty consistently and are meant for all the different rhythms throughout the day, whether you're fatigued, you've got brain fog, you have anxiety, all things that come from an active lifestyle. And so that's kind of what we're bringing to the table. We have 3 different flavors, two online right now that we're selling, and one that's coming out in July. And the first one's focused on energy and kind of specificity, being really kind of locked in on the day. The second one is focused on clarity and balance. The third one, anxiety and stress relief. So really meeting all of those different kind of need states that a person would have throughout the day. And that target customer is really somebody that's super active, right? So you almost don't have the time to find have your daily multivitamin in the morning, whether that's kind of a gummy or a pill, and you're not sure which daily supplement to pursue. We kind of give you a diversified option at that. And each of our ingredients, lion's mane, green tea extract, rhodiola rosea, all have kind of your 7 benefits from having this particular ingredient. So very transparent ingredient section for our consumers. And so that's kind of who we're targeting. And we're, the name, I know Elizabeth asked me prior, what's the background on Hangobi, a little different than kind of your daily multivitamin in a can. And really what it stands for is the prefix is kind of hang out, something that you're going to really have at whatever point of the day that you need it. And then OBI is actually our family nickname, Oberbeck being my last name. So kind of combining those 2 terms together. But
great.
just to finish up, sorry. But you can find us online, hangobi.com. We're also sold on Amazon, and we're launching into select retailers in kind of the East Coast market to start our brick and mortar strategy. But
congratulations. Well, I want to try the essential one. It says ginger, turmeric, cardamom, and ashwagandha. I think I said that right. But all of these have like ingredients in them that I've read at various times are very good for you. They're food-based ingredients. But that's kind of like, how do I take those every day? Or like, I'm not going to like stick turmeric on my tongue, right? So it does look like a good way to get these in your body.
Yeah, Conrad, by the way, you look and sound very healthy. So whatever you're drinking must be working, right?
You look hydrated.
Kenya, do you have a question?
Well, I was a little bummed because I saw the Calm, which I need help sleeping. It was sold out on your website. So bummed about that. But I saw the benefits that it has, the elderberry and just all the like plant-based things that you were talking about. In terms of the drink market, right? Because it's like there's millions and millions of different drinks. How would you say you have differentiated yourself amongst all the other competitors that are out there?
Yeah, no, Kenya, that's a terrific question. And one that's the most challenging with beverage, right? Why are you doing this? What is the point when there's a million other options? I think it's really born out of kind of what I tested with kind of people with months and months myself. Just recognize that finding reliable nutrition outside even your dieting is hard, kind of having home cooked meals, understanding what's at a restaurant. I just realized reliable nutrition is very difficult to come by. And what I think in the beverage market today, it's more, what mood are you in? What flavor are you interested in pursuing? And it's a little whimsical, where I think Hangobi and someone, I try to do endurance events. I try to be very active. Found it so difficult to stay kind of focused. I have brain fog frequently if I woke up early for a workout, and so on. So Hangobi is really different in that we're designing a use case to be not just you go to the store because you're thirsty or you're tired of water. We want Hangobi to be a routine-based drink. So something that people look at as that daily multivitamin with a great experience, as I talked about. So you're having, maybe it's your work week's really intense. Maybe it's Monday through Wednesday. You're having a can a day. If it's very difficult, you can mix in multiple cans. We have a really low organic sugar profile, cane sugar. And so the flavor fades away nicely. So you don't really have any kind of lasting effect from having, one of our cans. So it's really designed to be whatever your lifestyle is, it folds in as something that, is reliable. I used to use Emergency, when I get sick, I feel tickle on my throat, I'd be drinking 10 packets, right? This is essentially Emergency, but bringing in all these other, well-recognized supplements, as Elizabeth spoke to. Each of them has 3 Google pages, 7 benefits to your life. Like it's just, even the depth, you can get very deep or very shallow, but all very transparent to kind of daily health.
That's great. Michelle, do you have a question?
Oh my God, I have 1,000. My first big question was, my comment is I thought Hangobi was going to be the prevention and cure for hangovers.
That was my hope. Not that I would know anything about that.
It is a side effect, with bringing together all those hydrating categories. That's a place that we want our consumers to gravitate towards, right? Find out where this daily multivitamin fits into your lifestyle, but not something we lead with necessarily. But it has a very effective application in that category.
Yeah, I mean, I have so many personal questions because, you know, I just came out of the hospital with severe pneumonia, UTI, sepsis, and low blood pressure, and severely dehydrated. And because I'm so busy, you know, I could barely even drink water. And so now I'm drinking, you know, at least 80 to 100 ounces of water, but then I get tired of water. So then I start drinking a zero fruit water, which by the way, my daughter drinks a bunch of these, and I don't even know if it's healthy for her to be drinking. I assume it is it not? Tell me.
Well,
but that was my big,
Yeah, I think, I mean, I think the story that I talked to a lot of people, focus groups a lot before I started the project, and kind of people like you, Michelle, it's like, you're so active, you can't even think about your nutrition because you're all over the place, right? And you almost can't take the time to look into, you know, the ingredient sections on that drink that you held up. You'll see, you know, you almost need a chemistry degree to read a lot of the ingredients that are in there. And so what we're trying to bring is transparency, right? You look at our ingredient panel, you're like, one Google search and you're almost an expert within 1 or 2 reads. So making a convenient option for people that are, I've been drinking water all day, I need something, I need some energy, I need some stress relief, I need focus from brain fog. Hangobi, just sweep it out of your fridge and you're good to go. And I think that's what we're trying to bring to the table, is that super busy person. Obviously, we'd like people to drink it for flavor, it tastes great, it's delicious, but really a reliable option and something you can have in your fridge and be like, oh, do you know, a lot of people promise things. How does it work? You look up our ingredients and they're all meaningful daily values, you'll understand why it works. It's very straightforward.
Two things really quick, because I know we're at the end, but 2 things. Number one, you got to have a subscription model.
So we do have a subscription on our website. So we're subscription and one-time order. And then with our email flows, try to bring people into that subscription environment.
And really, because it's so competitive, you need a good celebrity endorsement. I don't know if you can afford that, but I have a client that works with Oprah, so I can maybe make an introduction there. You need a good celebrity endorsement.
Yeah,
well,
we have
would
endorsements.
Not be bad. Yeah.
She's the queen of everything, you know.
we made a couple partnerships across kind of pro athletes. So in the pro lacrosse world, female pro soccer world, UFC, some lifestyle comedians. So we've made a lot of those partnerships, which are really interesting and have really speak to people that are just at the top of their game, working hard, don't have time to think about nutrition. This is their option.
It's like you invest in Hangobi before you get that intro to Oprah.
Yeah, exactly.
And don't forget us too. I mean, Passage to Profit should be. We'd love to have her as a guest, right? So.
There you go.
Well, anyway, we are out of time now for this segment. Thank you so much for describing your Hangobi products.
And can I just say it's spelled HANG, hang, OBI.com. So
all one word.
Right. So when you go to the website to get your drinks, that's where you go.
All right. Sounds good. We'll be back with more Passage to Profit right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Passage to Profit. Just really a very lively and educational program tonight. I really learned a lot from some really accomplished entrepreneurs and consultants.
A couple of great new products to try out.
Great new products and
a lot of great advice from Michelle.
I thought so. I thought so too. So what's up next?
So now we're going to have our group discussion. So we're going to ask the question, what TV show describes you?
Best describes
you. And I'm finding that a tough one.
I know we're not enthusiastic about this at all.
No.
I know I brought it up a couple of weeks in a row and you kept vetoing it. So, but since we couldn't come up with anything else, we're going to go with this one. So Michelle, you're on first. What TV show best describes you?
I'm going to give 2 really quickly. Number one, I'm going to say Shark Tank. And I'm going to say Shark Tank for a couple of reasons. Number one, we do help business owners, entrepreneurs get ready to go on Shark Tank, because people who go on Shark Tank typically get ridiculed, criticized, because they always overvalue their business, right? They always overvalue the business. Very seldom do the sharks ever say, "Oh, you undervalued your company."
Well, no investor says that.
But they always overvalue their companies. That's why we get them ready for evaluations before they go on Shark Tank. But the reason why I say this is because business owners, entrepreneurs always think that their baby, parents think their baby is the most beautiful baby in the world, right? Well, business owners think their baby is the most prettiest baby, and it's worth more than it always is. It's my job to tell owners your baby's not as pretty as you think it is. And it's Shark Tank's job to do that too.
Right.
And then
It's funny, you have to go through the whole application process and get selected to be on Shark Tank to get that advice. So
get that advice. That's right.
So
and then I would say the profit with Marcus Simone is because he goes into and fixes businesses on CNBC, and you will never grow a business beyond what you can grow the owner.
right.
Right.
I believe that.
That's true.
I got that same advice from somebody once. They said, if you wanted to be a better business owner, a better leader, work on yourself first. And I think that was very wise. I've tried to follow that. All right. Well, who else has a TV show that they'd like to share with us? Andrew, you look like you're chomping at the bit.
Do I? At first I thought it was a movie that we had to come up with. So I was thinking Shawshank Redemption, because I feel like I had to tenaciously chip through that wall to make it to Zihuatanejo. But if I'm going to say a TV show, let's go with the A-Team, because if I think of my greatest pleasure in this business, it's to be able to attract and hire talented people that are more talented than myself, who would teach me every day, and putting that kind of that team together where you can find perfect alignment and harmony is the path to the promised land. So let's go with the A-Team.
Also,
Okay.
you're big on missions and arms and grenades and all that kind of stuff. Not so much, maybe.
I was when I was a kid. Let's do that.
Okay, Conrad.
Yeah, my go-to and often rewatch way too much is The Office. I think I watched it growing up, and I think what was so great about it is I love kind of the light humor that and all the kind of interpersonal reactions. But when I got older, then you start working in the actual office community, you start to recognize the more sophisticated kind of detail level work, kind of deliverables that people need when people fall short. They don't really hammer it too hard, obviously being a very light show, but so many nuances that you pick up later watching The Office. So I love that. And all the characters almost, everybody's got one little personality moment of each of those characters captured in within them. So always a great show. And I'm finding, even more relevant today, and especially, as kind of a person running a business now in that kind of manager role, it's funny to then look at kind of all the different perspectives.
Yeah, I thought The Office was great. Our daughter did too.
We watched
so many episodes, and then when I guess it went on streaming services, we've seen all of the episodes at least 3 or 4 times, which is dangerous if you're a CEO, because you start to internalize that stuff and you start acting like Michael, and before you know it, your whole team is acting like the rest of the office. So
Kenya's next, right?
Yeah.
So I will have to say, you're probably going to think this is the most shallow cliche answer, but there's a reason why. So it's definitely the Kardashians, and here's why, right? They are brilliant brand builders. Yeah. That mother has brand building figured out to a T. I don't forget how many kids she has, but each one of the girls has their own individual brand, their own product lines, their own. So it all started with that show, and it's evolved into this $1 billion business for them. And, they get a lot of slack for not having talent, but they're brilliant marketers. And I learn something every single time I watch that show.
That's amazing. I can't say that I've seen the Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Are you recommending that we watch it?
There's a lot of brilliant brand takeaways in there.
The name of the show. That's just what she's talking about. Like you would never watch it, but the name of the show. You know who some of the people are. Their branding is through the roof.
Yeah, I guess that's
their PR strategy is phenomenal. It's all a science. To us, it looks like just fluff, right. But it really isn't. It's there's a method to the madness.
And Kylie is a multi-billionaire, which is the youngest.
Yeah, they're all up there.
But she's the most because of her branding and because she's a influencer.
Yeah.
Well.
Okay, Richard.
I watched it.
You watch it?
I do. I love it.
A lot of people secretly do. They're like, they just don't want to say it, but I'm proud to say I learned so much from that
I
show.
love it, Matt. I haven't seen it since this went on Hulu. I was watching it in the morning when I was on channel, E.
Yeah.
Okay.
What $150 million plane. They're doing something right. We can learn from them.
Exactly.
They are doing something right. 1,000%.
So
Exactly.
I'm not going to go next. You need to go next.
All right. So I thought about it. So sometimes I watch like Me TV, which has really old shows on it. And I never used to watch a show, but I watched it a few times and I think it kind of reflects me. And it was MacGyver. And I know they did a spoof on it, MacGruber, but the true MacGyver, like, it was like Burn Notice. Like the guy you're there in a situation and you have to come up with a solution. You have to solve a problem. And I feel like that's pretty much my whole life, is like solving problem after problem after problem. And he uses science to do it. And I don't usually have to use science. Sometimes I do, but I do feel like that's probably reflects my life. And
what problems are you solving though? That's what we wanted. So, well, that sounds
Do you
pretty
really
good.
want me to get into it? Because a lot of them have to do with you.
I'm game, but we're running out of time.
Yeah.
So, and because we're running out of time, I'm just going to go with the Flintstones.
I was originally
well,
gonna do the
I know I
Flintstones.
kind of stole yours, but I just thought, I think they're funny, and I like to laugh. I don't know that there's any great wisdom to be gleaned from watching the Flintstones, I guess, other than, cars are better now than they used to be.
Or that people have been married since Stone Age times.
Yeah.
And having the same fights they have today.
You can't get away from it. Anyway, I think it's time for our wrap up. So.
Okay, so I am going to remind you of who was on the show and what their websites are. So our guest was Michelle Seiler-Tucker, and you can find her at STI@360.com, the numbers. She also has a podcast called Exit Rich, and she's an author.
And I think if you listen to her, you will exit rich. If you do what she says
to do. If
Yeah.
you
What
can-
I say.
yes.
do what she says.
And then we had Andrew Codispoti with Goodlife Clothing, goodlifeclothing.com. It's a premium brand, but at a really decent price and really nice clothing.
And I can testify that wearing Good Life clothing really will make your life good.
Oh, good.
So it's much better, much more comfortable. So buy it.
Okay. Well, and then we have Conrad Oberbeck with Hangobi, HANGOBI.com. Really wellness drinks that you can drink every day that are a little bit different, that taste good and really help your body hydrate. So
Right. And they peripherally help with hangovers too. So he's not advertising it as such, but he's not denying that it could help. So.
okay, so that was our show. So you know where to find everybody.
Yeah, and unfortunately, our time has come to an end, and we need to sign off for this week. But we'll return to this station next week with another episode of Passage to Profit. But before we go, I'd like to thank Noah Fleischman, our producer, Alicia Morrissey, our program director, and Mark Wilson, our syndication manager. Our podcast can be found tomorrow anywhere you find your podcast, and just look for the Passage to Profit show. And don't forget to like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And remember, while the information provided during this program is believed correct, never take a legal step without checking with your legal professional. This is Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart signing off.